Well, hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to the last session of Google I/O 2011. I'm really touched to see so many people come here today. So today we're talking about Google Tasks. My name is David, and I'm the product manager for Google Tasks. We've come all the way from the Zurich office in Switzerland to talk to you today. If you are tweeting along on your laptops or your new tablets, you can use the hashtags #IO2011 or #GoogleApps. And also while you're on there, you also might want to follow us on @GoogleTasks. During the session, there will be a SpeakerBeta link, so you can submit live feedback as we're going along, and you can find that at the Google short link there. Oops. So, towards the end of last year, we decided to put a survey up and ask our users what they thought we should focus on over the coming year. After all, Google's motto is basically focus on the user, and all else will follow. And we were absolutely overwhelmed by the response we got through this. We canvassed the best part of 200,000 votes from just under 20,000 people. And we noticed two really main things that stuck out from this. The first thing is people asked us, can we have our tasks everywhere? We can already access our tasks in Google Mail or in Google Calendar, and even on an iGoogle gadget on my homepage. But I want to access it from my mobile device. I want to be able to access tasks from many third-party web apps, which I use every day. And the second thing which people asked us for, make all this possible. Somebody said to us, an API for third-party apps would be absolutely incredible. Somebody else said to us, tasks needs an API so badly it hurts. So we saw this and we thought about it, and we agreed with you. So this morning, we're happy to announce the launch of the very first Google Tasks API. So it's with the release of this API that we're really looking to you guys to help provide this universal access to tasks, which our users have been asking for so badly. So we all know that you've really come to this conference to see demos on Android phones. So we're going to try our first one straight away. So here, you can see this is my Gmail account, and I've set up a little task list of things we want to talk about during the day. Can we have the projector on? So, and you'll have to bear with us. We are tempting the Wi-Fi gods a bit, trying a demo with a live device. This is all completely live. So what you can see here is my Android phone is showing you my task lists, and these are fetched directly from Google servers. This is all using the Java client libraries that we provide out of the box. It all works fine with Android. So I can click into shopping lists, and you can see a bunch of stuff that we need to buy for our launch party tonight. So Andreas has got the frozen pizza, but we still need a few other things. And we click into the Google I/O list, and you can see the things that I want to talk about today. So let's try and check off introduction. So now the phone is communicating back through the API, fingers crossed, to the Google servers. And if we can switch back here, we can see they got checked off. So that is the first live demo of the Google Tasks API working. So that was basically, the rest of the session is going to be about how you can build applications just like this, which synchronize and engage with Google Tasks. So that's my introduction over with. Fabian's now going to come up and talk a bit about the data structures and how we represent things like task lists and tasks, and some of the kind of nuances around that. Andreas is actually going to issue some live code to the API and do a live demo to run you through a few common actions you might be interested in to show you what you need to do to get the data back you want. And then Nicolas is going to come up and talk like a bit of a high level about the languages we support, the client libraries, how to use them. And also, since we think a lot of you will be really interested in synchronization, he's going to walk through a sample sync logic for you. And we've also had several teams using the API over the past month or so. So I'm going to invite up Maven, Link, Zoho, and Productive to share what they've done, to give you some cool demos, and to also talk a bit about what they learned and some lessons and stuff like that. So I'd like to invite up Fabian. Oh, before I invite up Fabian, if you need to, if you're online, you can go straight to this URL. You can see all the documentation, client libraries. And we might even offer a prize if someone manages to get a working integration by the end of the session. So, Fabian.
Thanks, David. Hi, everyone. I'm Fabian, and I'm software engineer with the Google Tasks team in Zurich. Can you hear me? Yes. As you've just seen with David's demonstration, the Tasks API allows you for the first time to access the tasks as we see them today in Gmail and in Calendar, and the iGoogle gadget, for example. So I'm going to walk with you through the basics of the Tasks API now. Who of you has attended the Life of a Google API Developer talk yesterday? Very few, okay. So if you would have attended that talk, you would find that much of what has been covered there you can apply to the Tasks API. As we have built that API on Google's new API infrastructure. But actually, I'm glad many of you haven't attended, because then you're going to learn more here. So let's get started with a brief overview. The Tasks API is available at googleapis.com. And as many APIs at Google nowadays, it's based on secure HTTP, on the RESTful architectural style, and on JSON for data representation. It's integrated with the API console, which some of you might already be familiar with. It's a dashboard that allows you as a developer to configure and register your project and gives you access to traffic reports, for example, where you can see how many requests your application sends to the Tasks API. This can be particularly useful if you're writing a client application, for example, that you distribute to users and that talks to the Tasks API directly. And this way, you usually don't really have a good handle on how many requests you send to us. And so this is a great way to see. Also, you can register or you can configure per user traffic limits and stuff like that. The API is available in the API's Explorer as well. It's a web interface to many of Google's APIs, and it makes it really easy to explore and discover an API through a web browser. You can discover the methods and operations that are available. You can even send requests and receive responses and see how it all works without having to write a single line of code or dealing with authentication and so on. And Andreas is going to show you a demo of the Tasks API using the Explorer in just a minute. We also provide a set of client libraries for major programming languages that will help you to get something up and running rather quickly. But so let's dive into the specifics of Google Tasks and the new API. When we look at the task list, at our I/O task list here, as it looks in Gmail, on the left-hand side, we can see a bunch of tasks. One has already been completed. Some are nested. And on the right-hand side, we can see the details for a particular task. We see stuff like due date, additional notes that I can put in there. So there's basically two entities to the system, which is tasks and task lists. And that's exactly the two types of resources that we expose through the RESTful API. A list really just only has a title. There's not much else to it. Task has several more fields that hold all the information that we've just seen, title, due date, notes, and so on. Not all of which are listed here. Two that I want to point out quickly, because they don't correspond that directly to something that we experience in the UI, is the parent field and the position fields that we have in our resource. For a nested task, the parent field will indicate the ID of the parent task under which this one is nested. And the position field is a string that lets us find out about the ordering that the user defined in the UI. But I'll go into that in a minute. So to get started and find out about what lists a user has, we provide a collection at a fixed URL ending in /users/@me/lists, which will contain, or which contains all the lists of the authenticated user. So that's a great entry point for an application to find out about, the lists that the user has if you've never dealt with that user before. And then similarly to find out about the tasks on a specific list, there's a collection that will hold that information, and the URL contains the ID of the list that you're actually interested in. So we basically have two types of resources, two types of collections that we can interact with in a RESTful way. Who of you is familiar with the RESTful style of talking to APIs? Great, many of you are. So I'm just going to run through the basic operations so we're all on the same page. I listed the full URL endpoint of the two collections in the system at the top. And the operations that we can do on a collection is we can insert a new element, or we can just read back the full list as a JSON, in a JSON representation, basically, using HTTP post or get. And then the resources, so the individual tasks and lists within these collections, their URL look very similar to the one of the collection. They just contain their specific IDs appended to the end, like this. And on individual resources, we have 3 operations that we can basically perform, which is update that resource by sending a new representation, delete it, or read back that specific resource, again by using HTTP get, put, or delete. In the tasks API, there's also something that looks a little bit different that's related to ordering. And I just mentioned the position field before. Here I put a bunch of tasks, and I put on the right-hand side what the value of these position fields could be for each one of these tasks. Remember, it's a string, so it's not just numbers, but I put it here to make it a bit more simple. The position string lets us know what or how the user ordered his task in the UI. And so by ordering the tasks by that string lexicographically, we will end up with the right order as the user defined it in the UI. And as tasks can be nested, this position string always just applies to the tasks on the same level, so just among the sibling tasks under the same parent. They will define that ordering. So how about if we want to move a task from, say, the end to, under task 1 here and in between the 2 children that are already there? In the UI, I can do this with a simple drag and drop, and it's done. In the API, we wanted to do something similar and make it as easy as possible, so we provide a move method. It's basically, you take the URL of a specific task, you append /move, and then you specify the ID of both the new parent task that you want to move your task under, and the ID of the task that you want to move your task immediately after of, so the new previous task in the ordering. And what the API will do for you then is to move the task exactly there, which is conceptually updating its parent field to the new parent, 1 in this case, and updating its position string to an appropriate value so that the ordering will, again, result in the, if you order by that string again, it will result in the right order. But let's do some hands-on example, and I'm going to leave the stage to Andreas, who's going to show you the Tasks API in the Explorer.
Thanks, Fabian, for that great introduction on how the Tasks API works. Now it's time to look at some real examples in the wild. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how you can use the Tasks API to actually modify and manage the tasks and task lists. And we're also going to look at the exact requests and responses that you have to send and that you will get back. To do so, I'm going to use the API's Explorer, as Fabian already mentioned. It's really a great tool for experiments like that because it allows you to easily explore the APIs Google is exposing, discover new features. You see some short documentation right in it. You don't have to write any line of code. Everything can be done using the really easy-to-use UI. And it's available at code.google.com/API/Explorer. So let me switch to the browser. This is the main page of the API's Explorer. On the left-hand side, you can see all the services that are exposed by the Explorer. For this demo, obviously, we're going to use the Tasks API. So I select Tasks. Next to it, you see the versions we just launched. So there's only V1. API's Explorer already pre-selected that. And right next to it, you see all the methods that are exposed by that API. This demo will focus on a sort of simple but still real-world scenario. We're going to pick a task from one of our task lists and then tick it off. So the first thing I want to see is what task lists do I have. To do that, I browse through the methods, and there's task list.list. Documentation says it returns the user's task lists, but you have to be authenticated. So let's quickly switch to private access. Now we're using private access. We selected the task list.list method, and we can see the parameters that are supported by that method. We have max results, which is optional and defaults to 100, so we don't need to set anything there. Then there's a page token that would allow you to do pagination if you don't want to get the whole data set back. We don't want to set anything there as well. So all we have to do is execute. And on the bottom of the screen, you see now the request and the response. Let me make this a little bigger. On the first line, you see the request that was actually issued against our servers. You see that default URL that points to the collection containing all my task lists. And you see the response, 200, that's great, everything worked. And we got back a collection containing 2 items. One is the shopping list that David showed in the beginning, and the other thing is the Google I/O task list. This is the one where we're pretty sure that our task is on, so let me quickly copy the ID of the task list, because we're going to need it in a minute. Now we switch back, and now let's look at all the tasks that are actually on that task list. To do that, we pick the method tasks.list, which returns all tasks in a certain list. Now there's the parameter task list that needs to be provided, and it should contain the ID of the task list we want to look at, so let's paste in that ID. There are a bunch of other parameters as well. Those allow you to do a sort of fine-grained query. You can specify when the task had to be completed or when it's due. Currently, we're not interested in that. We just want to see everything on that list. So we only populate the task list parameter and click on execute again. In the request that was sent, you can now see that we switched from the collection of all my task lists to the collection of all tasks on one given list. The response was again okay, and we see there's 4 items in that result set. I'm currently demoing how you can use the Tasks API, so let's just tick off that task. Ticking off a task basically just means upload the task again with a different status. Currently, the status is needs action, which means that it's not ticked yet. So let's change that status to completed. I'm copying away the whole data of that task because this is what I'm going to modify and upload. And updating a task is done using tasks.update. It only takes 2 parameters, the task list ID and the task ID, and of course a request body, which contains the data that we're actually going to send. So I click on the link, I paste in the data that we copied before, I change the status from needs action to completed, and I'm pasting in the task IDs again. This is the task list ID, and somewhere below, here's our task that we're updating. Here's the ID of that task. And we execute the request. You can see that API Explorer now issued a put request because we're actually updating data and are uploading, we're updating a task, and are uploading data. You see the data that we uploaded with the new status completed. If we look at the response, it's again 200, that's pretty cool. And the server also, or the API also returns the data as it sees it at the moment. So you see the status has been changed to completed, and in addition to that, the server also set the completed timestamp, which is the time when the server received the request. As you can see, it's really straightforward to use the APIs Explorer. It's great. You can just try out stuff. You immediately get responses. You immediately see all the errors. Theoretically, you could now use those requests and write your applications, but luckily we have a client lib that makes it even more comfortable to talk to the tasks API. And Nicolas is going to talk about how to write apps using those libs.
All right, thanks, Andreas. So hi, everyone. My name is Nicolas, and I'm part of the Tasks API Developer Relations team. So as Andreas mentioned, I'm going to show you how we can use our client libraries, and specifically one of them through a common synchronization scenario. But first, let's see what client libraries are available today. So we currently have available 2 libraries for strongly typed languages, Java and .NET, and 3 for dynamic languages, so Python, PHP, and Ruby. So what's really interesting about the 3 client libraries for dynamic languages is that they are actually going to use our API discovery mechanism to actually know how to parse the response from the API and how to generate messages to send to the API. So they're basically generic for all our APIs that support the discovery mechanism, and they're basically going to, automatically and dynamically offer you a business layer, basically, to use. So this kind of library are basically making it easy for you to, for example, authenticate using OAuth 1 and 2, which is definitely not trivial to implement. They're also going to handle, all the data format handling, such as parsing the response and generating the, JSON outputs to the API, etc. For example, here on that slide, you can see that using the Java and the Python client library, you can actually get your default tasks list really easily with a one-liner, and then parse through those tasks really easily and in a language-specific way. So we're now going to go through a common but simple but common synchronization scenario, and that's basically what we're doing on our Android app that David has shown you earlier. So there's multiple aspects to that synchronization. The first aspect is that at any moment, of course, a user can use your app and modify your tasks. So it's going to modify the local version of your tasks, since you're going to keep basically probably a local copy of all your tasks in a local database. So also, at any moment, a user or any other app using the API can modify the task the remote task that's located on Google server, and therefore you're going to have to synchronize to. There's also the second aspect of that is we're going to run a periodic job, basically that can be done, through a sync adapter on an Android app, or using a scheduled task, on an App Engine app, or any other type of periodical job on your own platform. So what we're going to do during this periodical job is we're going to send all the local modifications to the API, the one that your user has modified, and then you're going to get all the modifications from the API. So we're going to see that in a minute, how you can do that using using some code. So to actually do that, we're going to use, and I'd like to show you these 2 really useful API features that are available in the Task API today, is the ability to do conditional modification. You can do that by setting an if match header along with your request to the e tag of the task. So the e tag is like a version number that your task is that's assigned to your task. When you do a conditional modification, for example, a conditional update of your task, what's going to happen is that if the task has been modified, on Google server remotely, so basically, if the task is not at the same version you have, that you got the last time you synchronized, the update is going to fail, and the API is going to let you know that your task is different and that there's a conflict to handle, basically. The second feature is the ability to do polling. So that's very common in many of our APIs. So you can use the updated min_url parameter, setting a date, and then the API is basically going to return you all the modifications that happened since that date. So first, let me ask you, who is not a Java developer in the room? Who doesn't know Java? I'm not raising my hand. Though it's kind of weird because that's my hand on the screen, Thank you. I didn't expect this joke to work. But yeah, it's really hard to get a commercially licensed image, so I just take my hand. All right, so I apologize to you all because, all the samples, upcoming samples are going to be in Java. So hopefully that was only a couple people in the room. So what you first need to do, the first action, a user modify a task on your app, basically. So obviously, you're going to have to save all the modifications on your local database. Then you're going to mark the entry as having been modified. So here, we don't push the modification straight away. We just mark it as needs to be updated later during the sync cycle. Then, very important, you need to save the modified date of the task, the date as when the user basically modified your task. That's going to be useful when you need to, handle merging between two tasks or, conflicts. I'm not going to show any code here because that's basically depends, on your local database or the platform you're using. There's no specific API calls here. Then the second aspect of the synchronization, the periodic job, which is a little more interesting for us. The first part of this is you are going to push periodically all the modifications that your user has done to the API. So here are all the tasks involved. So the first part of this is to get all the tasks that have been marked from your local database. So again, no specific API call. I'm just going to mark, in bold blue like this, all the methods that are up to you to develop. Basically, they use your own database or other things. It's basically up to you. Then in the green box here, we're going to do the conditional update. So updating a task conditionally. If the task has changed, please let us know. Basically, that's what it does. And then you have to remove that modified marker, so you don't keep updating the task on the next periodic cycle. So this is how you can do that using our Java client library. So usually, updating a task is a one-liner, the second line here, to which we've added setting the if match header. So using the e tag of the tasks and execute it. And then you remove the marker that the task needs to be updated. And then, of course, we shall not forget to actually handle conflicts. So if a conflict happened, this update failed, the API is going to return you a 412 precondition failed error, so an HTTP error 412. And you can actually catch that using the HTTP response exception in Java and just checking the status code, because that's the exception we're going to return every time the API does not return 200, basically, or 2xx, 200, 201s, etc. So here, if it's a 412, sorry, there's basically a conflict to handle. So basically, you're going to have to merge your local version of your tasks and the remote one, since they differ now, and they've both been modified in two different systems. So a quick word about these merging strategies. So there's many of them. Probably the most common one is just to simply keep the last modified tasks, version of the task of the two. So you're going to look on Google Server, when has this task been modified, and the one you have, and just pick the latest one, the latest modified one. There's also a few other ones. For example, you could choose your version to always win, to always take, be preferred. You could also just prompt the user, ask him, oh, there's a conflict. You want to keep your version or update to this one? You could also try to do per field merge, in which case you would need to keep a modified date on each field, and then you could actually do per field merge in some case. Could be really interesting. And I'm just going to show you how you can do this. The keep the last modified strategy, merge strategy, using our library. So it's also pretty simple. You're just going to get the remote task that has the same ID in the same list. And then you're going to compare the two timestamps, and then just choose whether you need to save the remote task in your local database or just update again the remote task on the API, this time not conditionally, just erasing it. You could also still do it conditionally, but using the new e tag of the task you just gotten, just to make sure the task has not been modified if you're really unlucky between the first and the fourth line. All right, then the second part of the synchronization here is we're going to get all the modified tasks from the API and update your local database. So here are some of the tasks involved. We're basically doing polling. So we're using the updated min parameter. It's, again, pretty simple to use. Usually getting the default task list is only a one-liner. Then we're going to set the updated min URL parameter, as I said, to a date to which you've saved. So basically the date of your last sync. You also have, you should not forget, that's really important, to ask the API to show you all the deleted tasks, basically all the tasks that has been deleted basically it's going to return you tombstones, like letting you know, oh, those 5 tasks has been deleted. That way you can update your local database and remove those tasks. Then that's not really API specific. You're just going to save that to your local database, erase and update your tasks. And yeah, sorry, the last part here in the green box is you're going to have to save this new date. Oh, that's my new synchronization date. I want to use this date for next round. So instead of just saving the current date of your system, in which case you would need your server really in sync with Google servers, a common trick here is just to actually beyond the task you've just gotten here on the previous sub part, you're just going to try to find the latest updated task and just keep that date and reuse that date for next update. That way you don't really rely on having your 2 clocks synchronized with Google. That's common code. Then you're going to save that date and use that for later. So actually, then that's it. If you follow these principles, you should have a well-working task integration. I think I touched the cable here. All right, we're back. And yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. So I'm now going to let the stage to David for more exciting stuff. Thanks very much.
Okay, I'm going to stand well back from that cable. So that was all about how to build stuff. And now I'm going to show you some stuff that's actually already been built. And in a few cases, actually already running in the wild and available to people's users today. So as I said, we had several teams using the API over the past few months. And I would now like to invite up to the stage Roger, who is the founder and vice president of products and platform at MavenLink, Naveen, who is a tech lead at Zoho, and Ilan, who is the founder and CEO of Productive. Guys.
Thank you very much. Nicolas, thanks for the landmine here on the keyboard. So let me switch over to MavenLink. So hi, I'm Roger. I'm from MavenLink. We were invited by the Google guys to participate in the Trusted Testers program for the Tasks API, and just want to express my appreciation to them, and also thank my team who's maybe watching on YouTube right now for all the hard work getting this feature delivered. It's actually live in production right now based on the release, and we're really excited, and we've already gotten some great customer feedback on it. So a little bit of background, MavenLink is an end-to-end application to do work with clients. So you'll see that I'm going to present a project workspace where we're doing some work on a redesign for a website for one of our clients, Sean Crafts, and one of his colleagues, Jeff Moore. We've been in the Google Apps Marketplace for about a year. We were actually doing the implementation of some of the other integrations exactly a year ago today, while many of you were at Google I/O. And now we're here, less than 1 year later, expanding on some of that stuff. So just to give you a little bit of background, our original integration with all the stuff that you see on the right-hand side of the screen, where we have our tasks, deliverables, and milestones, we're actually syncing those to your Google Calendar. So now with the release of the Google Tasks API, we were able to actually synchronize the tasks, which is kind of the main system of record of what people are doing with their clients in our system. We're able to sync that with your task list. So that's what I'm going to show you now. So this has been a big request for our customer. You can see here I'm in a project workspace. Just to kind of give you a little perspective on what these guys were saying, you have tasks and task lists. We create a task list for each project. So you have one or more projects with a client, and so we have our website redesign for Acme task list, and then a bunch of subtasks that may or may not be assigned to me. If they're not assigned to me, they don't come in my Google task list. If they are assigned to me, they do. So we're kind of jumping into the middle of a scenario here. We've done a scoping session with a client, and now they're looking for us to upload our revision 1 mockups. So I can fly that out, complete this task, which will complete it in MavenLink, and then I can go to my Google Calendar or my Google email, and when I refresh the task list here, you can see that the revision 1 mockups task is now completed, and it's completed over here. We've done a bidirectional sync. We didn't implement some of the polling that Nicolas was mentioning, but that's something that's going to be a future feature for us. But in this case, we can complete more tasks if we did maybe a review with our client and then come back to Maven Link and synchronize that. So we have a little sync button, which kicks off a real-time pull from Google, and then in our workspace, that Ajax is in any completions. And you can see that we actually had a few things to bulk sync here. This got completed, and then we have a couple of new tasks that were in our Google task list that maybe I created before, and so those get synced up as well. So that's kind of the demo. You know, I think we're coming up to the stage to ask or answer any questions about some of the best practices. But you know, we're really excited about this. We think that tasks is really the core of an email workflow, and Google is essentially enabling apps like mine to fit into that third-party workflow. So it's live now, like I said, and actually for Google I/O, we're offering 50% off Maven Link for life. So if you'd like to come in, sign up, give it a try out our APIs, you can do that. Go to /Google I/O or ping me, and I can set you up as well.
Thanks, Roger. Hello, everyone. I'm Naveen. I work for Zoho, where I head a team responsible for integrating Zoho with Google Apps Marketplace and other open social apps. For those of you who are not familiar with Zoho, we offer around 25 online services, ranging from the basic productivity suite all the way up to CRM, project management, invoicing, custom app building platform, and much more. We have integrated most of our business apps with Google Apps Marketplace. Over the last 1 year, we have been consistently adding new services to Google Apps Marketplace and have been constantly enhancing features to our existing services. Zoho has thus grown to become the largest vendor in Google Apps Marketplace. So coming to Google Task integration, when you think about task management, ideally there should be a single place where you can manage your tasks. But in reality, that is not the case. You may manage your personal task in one application, and if you're working on a few projects, you may maintain your task in a project management. And if you're a sales guy, you'll end up maintaining your task in a CRM application. But what if you can manage all your tasks in one single place? What if you can manage your project and CRM-related tasks in one application? So this is basically what we have done with Google Tasks. We have integrated tasks from Zoho CRM and projects with Google Apps, Google Tasks. So I will start with the Zoho CRM. Before that, this integration will go live soon, but for now, let me show you the screenshots of how this integration looks. So in Zoho CRM, users will be presented with a configuration wizard where they can specify the Google task list to which the Zoho CRM task can be pushed to. Once this setup is in place, the tasks that are added in Zoho CRM can be pushed to Google Tasks. Also, when the user edits a task in Zoho CRM, the changes will be updated in Google Tasks as well. Moving on, here's how we have integrated Google Tasks with our project management app. Users' tasks in Zoho projects can be exported along with their task list to Google Tasks. Also, if there are any changes made in Zoho projects, will be automatically updated in Google Tasks. To sync the modifications in Google Tasks, we run a scheduler for every 12 hours. And if there are any changes, it will be updated automatically in the corresponding tasks. So I hope you find this integration useful. We do have plans of extending this integration to the rest of the services. I would like to thank Nicolas for inviting me to showcase our integration, and also the Google team for their wonderful support right through the integration. Thanks, guys.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ilan Abehacera, and I'm the founder and CEO of Productive. For those of you who are not aware of what Productive is doing, we're basically building a task management platform that lets you collect your to-dos from a lot of different locations, platforms, services, apps. We're available in a lot of Google services, integration with Google Apps, Google Talk, the Chrome Web App Store, Chrome extension, and so on and so forth. And we're here today to present the Google Tasks integration. All right, so I'm going to do a live demo. We never know if it's going to work or not, but we've tried it a couple of times, and it should be working fine. This is the productive web app here. So as you can see, this is my Google I/O project. I have 2 tasks on it. First thing I'm going to do is connect my Gmail account with productive. All right, so I'm doing the whole process so you can see how seamless it is to integrate both products together. Now I'm going back to my workspace, and now we're going to see my Google Tasks widget. And as you can see, those 2 tasks are already available in my task list. We also retrieve notes and deadlines. We synchronize both ways. So let me show you how that works from Gmail and Google Task to Productive. So let me turn this email into a task here. So it's already available in my Google task list. And now I'm going back to Productive, refreshing, and it's right there as well. Now, just creating a new task, let's say new brochure for next week. We also understand natural language processing. So it's creating a new task on Productive with deadline for next week, going back to Google Tasks, refreshing, another time. It takes usually 5 to 10 seconds. It's going to show up. I promise. And so basically, just to sum it up, what we do is retrieving your tasks, synchronize them both ways, getting your deadlines and notes on both services. Let's try, and then I'm moving on to my last slide. There you go. Yeah. All right. So quickly about the technical implementation itself, we really loved the documentation. As you saw earlier, everything is very detailed, lots of support from the Google Task team, well-structured API. And also one of the lots of requests that we got for Productive was the possibility to turn any Gmail emails into a task on Productive, and now it's doable, like I just showed you in last minute. Thank you very much. And thank you again for the Google Task API.
Thank you very much, Ilan. So that's the end of our talk now. Please do follow us on Twitter at Google Tasks if you are tweeting. The hashtags are here. And please also leave some feedback as well. That short link leads you to the Speaker Meter page. If you want to get started straight away, the URL is up there. And also, I'd like to say, just before we take questions, it's taken a great many people to get this API out the door, and I'd like to say a huge, huge thank you to everyone involved. I'm not going to try and list everyone for fear of missing someone, but you guys know who you are. I particularly want to say thank you so much to the team back in Zurich, and also to Andreas, our tireless tech lead, for keeping things running, for Nicolas for running a great developer relations program, and for Fabian, who literally sweat blood and tears coding this API from scratch for you guys. Thank you very much. Also, say thank you very much for choosing this session, and have a great journey back from I/O. And we'd love to take any questions if I can invite the team up. Good to go. So the first question, the mic.
Hi. So the move method that you implemented, is it strictly a helper? I mean, obviously it's going to go and enumerate the different positions and find the right value to insert and so forth. Does it have kernel knowledge that we would be unable to reproduce, or is it just saving us the two-phase commit of doing back and forth and so forth?
I'm not sure. So you said, what's your question?
So you implemented a move API, but you exposed the attributes of the elements so that I could do a get and a put and in theory put it back, but I have to have, I'm updating the position values and so forth. So is there something about the move API that does things that we could not, that guarantee it to be better, more reliable, or consistent? I mean, because the values you put in there are being generated by the move API now. It's inserting new values for those position values. So is there a convention? Is there a pattern? If some app is doing its own thing, it moves itself its own way with its own set of position values, is something else going to get screwed up by that? Like, was this purely a helper, or is it actually have specific knowledge about how things are supposed to be? Do you see my question or not?
It's not purely a helper in that you cannot achieve a move in any other way.
You can't. If I do a put with the version number and the new position number and the previous predecessor, why is that not the same thing?
So a task doesn't have a field that defines its predecessor, but it only has this position field.
The predecessor is the thing.
Which we update for you when you do the move.
But the position thing determines the predecessor. If I look at the previous set of values, I know the one, I can put the thing in there.
I don't hear it acoustically.
So I think you can't simply update the position field because they're not simply sequential. They're kind of auto-magically generated from behind the scenes. And so if you end up with loads of tasks getting together, at some point we're going to have to do some sort of rebalancing.
So what you're saying is we really should absolutely not try to set the position value anytime.
No, that's correct. The position values are provided for you.
And we can't, but although we can set them in the API, we should not.
You cannot set them in the API.
Oh, so they just come back for informational purposes? But
Yes,
okay.
Exactly, yes.
That's the question I had. All right,
Okay. Sorry about that.
Just a best practices question. I have a task app that has multiple broken down fields and more specific data values like quantity and location, things like that. What's the best practices for syncing that with Google Tasks, which only has the title and the notes and due date field? Is there a best practices for how to itemize that in the notes field or what to eliminate?
Yeah, so currently we don't support custom fields. There's basically no best practice yet. If you can easily somehow serialize it into notes, and it will show up in Google Tasks, in the widgets in Gmail and Calendar. So you can choose sort of half machine readable form, which still makes sense to real users, then that's cool. But we don't have any better advice than that at the moment.
Okay.
Hi, I missed the early part of your talk, so if you covered it, I'm sorry. It's actually a two-part question. One was that it's usually a very popular use case to be able to do coordinated tasks. So if I have 4 people in my family, can I have a one put that goes into all 4 accounts and kind of like know who's finishing it? Is the Tasks API going to support that down the line in the sense of maybe having a put to a group rather than a person? And the other part of the question was, I think I saw something which allows me to basically do a get from different applications for my task queue, right? So do you automatically do notifications if one of the apps deletes the task? Do you notify other apps that are looking at it, things like that?
So I can answer the question about social tasks. So if you read our blog post towards the beginning of January, it basically summed up the results from the user survey we did in December. And one of the largest feature requests was for social tasks, so things like assigning tasks, sharing lists. So this is some feedback we've obviously taken on board, and we're putting a lot of energy into the task product this year. So I can't comment on roadmap specifically, but we definitely know it's a really common use case.
Okay, so I mean, kind of to build on that, I'm assuming there's no other attribute that just says whether this is a public or a private task, kind of like at a very low level. There's no other attribute other than the string that defines the task, right?
Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Oh, sorry, I was saying right now on the tasks, you don't have any attribute that sets it to a public or private. It's just
so yeah, right now, the only person who can access the setter list is yourself,
okay.
and they're private to you.
All right, thanks.
Hey.
I noticed in all of your examples, the puts have all of the attributes of the task, but some of them are immutable. So are they, is there any need to specify those?
No, there's no need to specify
so
that.
Partial updates are fine.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, why did you make a conscious decision not to include client data, like maybe one private field or one custom field? Or why did you choose to leave out custom fields altogether?
So it's the question, are we going to include custom fields at some point?
Yes, I guess that's
So this is the Labs API, so obviously we're going to want to iterate it on your feedback. So we know it's a use case, basically.
We just try to focus with version 1 to get out there what we have available in Gmail today and take it from there.
It wasn't really a criticism. I was interested in the thought process as much as anything else. Thanks.
Hey.
Hi. I was wondering if the task has an associated email, like when you select the More Action button and associate the task with an email. is that available in the API?
So when you create a task from an email, can you get the email thing? So yeah, it's not included in the API right now, but we're going to be bringing it out soon.
Okay, and the other question is, since this task API supports OAuth, can we, as Google Apps administrator, access like all domains users' tasks on behalf of them?
Yes, so the API do support two-legged OAuth. So yes, the administrator can, I mean, if he's administrator of apps for your business domain, yeah, he can access, using the two-legged OAuth mechanism, all the tasks from all his, users.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Are there any more questions?
Yeah, I think that's it. Last chance. We're gonna we're gonna wrap up.
Did anyone get an implementation running during the session, or was I too?
It's cool. We had no hard questions.
Well, thank you very much for coming, guys.
Why did it take 4 years? No.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming, and have a great journey home. And hope you enjoyed I/O, and enjoy your new tablets as well. We're kind of
Thank you very much.